Hello, it's been ages, Mr. Patrick. It genuinely has been ages.
Who are you?
We haven't actually spoken for ages.
I forgot who you are.
How are you? It's like an out-of-body experience, except I am in my own body, in my house. But you are a voice in my head again.
I'm actually your conscience. You know what you did.
Once.
You know what you did.
I met you twice.
3
Won't
times.
Get fooled again. I don't know if people remember us. Will you remember us, the listeners?
I barely remember you, let alone.
It has genuinely been that long.
What was that music that just played at the start? What was that? I seem to recall it.
I don't know. It's a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, bring to mind
especially
like the Flash.
Especially because I was thinking of this being maybe some sort of rambling intro to something, but
no.
Well, we'll do it your way. So, because I was thinking of maybe some sort of way to welcome people back, something that's very us, but not a gimmick. Not a gimmick.
No.
How about those?
How about a really fucked up intro?
No gimmicks. No gimmicks. Because people don't want that.
Obi Trice, real name, no gimmicks.
No gimmicks. Are we agreed?
No gimmicks.
AROOGA. Brand new Twin Humanities incoming. Get your listening shoes on. Soothing ointment for your monkey sores. Love you fam. Here for the long haul. Drop the mic. Pick up the mic. We rollin'. They hatin'.
We're no strangers to souls. I've played the game, and so have I. Bit more commitment might be where it's at. You wouldn't get this from both fireside chat. We just wanna tell you how we're feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We've known each other 60 episodes. Your fingers aching, but you're too shy to tweet it. It could be arthritis is setting in. We know the games and we're gonna play them. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, I'd like a cuppa and a bun. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
This week's very special episode. We're going to be talking all about Dark Souls 3, the stuff that we liked, stuff that we didn't like. Is there conflict? Yes.
Never gonna give, never gonna give you up.
Never gonna give, never gonna give
You up.
We've known each other, chopping yonks. Your inside's climbing, but you're too mad to spend it.
Inside we both know what's been going on.
We know the games and we're gonna play them. We just wanna funk you like a sunroll.
Gotta make you
Praise the sun. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
never gonna give you up.
So, welcome back to Twin Humanities, the show for no gimmicks. No gimmicks. So, what we were going to do here, because I have now finished Dark Souls 3 after everybody else finished it about 18 years ago.
I finished Dark Souls 4 since then.
Have you?
Yeah.
See, this is the real reason we don't talk anymore. It's so funny how we don't talk. And do you think Cliff Richard will translate to our American audiences?
I think I know who Cliff Richard is.
You really did? I just wonder that because our theme music gets blocked in like Ecuador and Argentina,
Germany,
and
I
places
think.
like that, yeah, that we're missing out on maybe somebody going fucking Cliff Richard.
I think he's like David Hasselhoff.
My general kind of foreign stroke influenced by American culture. Was.
It just sounded like a radio guy going, fucking Cliff Richard.
Life is tough, lots of vodka by Bruce Springsteen. I missed you, man.
Yeah, it's been long.
It's nice to.
Words.
Sorry, just put you off now. You're just like, no, God, the idea of talking again was something quite nice, but the reality is quite different.
This
entirely.
is why. I remember now.
So we were going to have a little chat between us about Dark Souls 3 in general. Now we've both finished it, and we'll continue with the regular Twin Humanity stuff with guests and all that kind of MacGuffin, MacGubbins, Magooba from the next episode. And I've got some nice guests lined up. It looked a little bit kind of wonky there with people going, oh, I'd like to do that, but I don't know when I could do it. Oh, I'd like to do that. Nobody had that accent.
I like that you think you actually talk to these people when it really was probably just tweets, wasn't it?
I was like, hello.
Morse code? What were you...
Sent a small tap dancing borrower.
That means yes.
I made a paper plane and flung it towards the United States of America. But yeah, so that is now happening. But we thought we'd have a little bit of a chat about Dark Souls 3 in general, because I don't know. I took a long time to finish it, and a few little bits that you'd said to me were talking about in of itself.
Yep.
We had a brief conflab about this about 2-3 weeks ago,
and then realised we should probably shut up.
Which I wish we'd recorded it, but yeah. But before we go into that,
hang on. Okay, let me prepare my before. Yep, go.
I'm gonna do like a little aside, because I picked up one of the Xbox One Elite controllers.
Right.
So
is that the one that's blue?
No, this is the one that's like
I'm thinking of the custom one. Yeah.
125 quid. So it's Game, which is a UK store if you're abroad, had
because we name our shops like that in England.
Yeah, strange. Like,
oh, Walmart is just called Food.
Cobbs.
Do you want to go for a drink now?
They had a day whereby during the European Championships, whereby you could bring in your used games and you get twice as much for them as you normally would.
What?
And yeah, and a lot of the time the money that I'd be getting was more than I could buy them for if I bought them second hand. So I just looked at my games collection and was like, right, what am I not playing? What have I not gone back to? What am I not asked about? And just grabbed the swathe of games and just thought, right, I'll wander in, see what I can get. And sort of they went through, and I chatted with the lad at the till and stuff, and he went, right, that's £195 then. What? Right then. So I got one of the Elite controllers, because on this podcast I kind of sit on the Xbox One fence sort of quite a lot, and
the Xbox is greener on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I like the conflab that we've got between us, because we both kind of veer towards different sides, and hopefully there's a little bit of balance in the regular stuff.
But this, we managed to not hate each other.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which is quite impressive, really, for the internet.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Elite controller I was always sort of quite taken with, and when you do use machine a lot, especially essentially getting free money as I'd just gotten now, I thought, right, I'll give it a go and I'll pick one up. And whilst the marketing is saying that, they're great for first-person shooters and for racers and stuff, it's incredible for Dark Souls.
Right.
And I don't know if everybody will be aware of this. So the controller, if you've not seen it, it's all fancy schmancy, and you can swap out the different control sticks and the D-pad. But it's got lockable triggers, so you can have them as like short taps for first-person shooters, or if you want to use the long triggers for like driving games and stuff, you can do that. But the main thing is there's your face buttons on the top of the controller are mirrored by paddles at the bottom of the controller. So imagine it sort of draw an X, if you will,
hang on,
and each prong. Yeah, you can do it. Beautiful.
I'm doing it with my hand. Yeah.
So each prong is one of the face buttons. So at the top, left to right, you've got A and B.
Okay.
And then the bottom is X and Y.
Like sort of like under where the L1, LT, LBs would be.
Yeah, well, it's literally under at the side of kind of the underneath grips. It's directly underneath the
side of the underneath grips. Let me just pass that.
Yeah.
Side of the... Okay, right, yep. Had to untangle that one. I'm with you.
PS4, just to give you an idea. Right, so...
this is an audio format, I must remind you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just pegged it across the room because I've been playing Bloodborne. So yeah, there's if you imagine sort of underneath, you've got your X, sort of maybe not a million miles away from those little screws underneath the DS4.
I actually don't have a controller in my hand. 1 second. Let me do my volume. Yeah. It's charging. Sorry, okay, I'm here. Right.
You get what I mean. Anyway.
Listeners, get a DualShock 4.
Yeah. So
I'll give you a second. Pause it. Okay, welcome back.
So you've got your X, you've got A and B as left and right at the top, and then X and Y at the bottom of those prongs. So in Souls terms, this actually means not taking your hands away from the thumbsticks. So if you're holding down that top right prong to run and jump, bottom left to Estus, and two-handing a stance with like bottom right, and then picking up stuff and confirming it with like top left. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but
I don't like it. Ooh.
But particularly because most of those you're only using every now and again, and you are 100% breaking muscle memory on this. What it means for the most part is that you're just using the top right one to like run and jump, but you're not taking your thumbs off the thumbsticks to do any of that. So what it meant was like like I say, it took a little bit of breaking the muscle memory on it, but the first boss battle that I had was in one of the optional areas with the the kind of fire demon boss that's near the worm.
Okay. By the way, should we just say spoilers off at this point, because
people
let's not dance.
Yeah. We're talking about DS3 in its entirety. So
yeah. So you're fighting Optimus Prime.
Hey.
Optimus Prime.
Hey.
Yeah, that secret boss. You know the one.
You've lost me.
Ah, you spike my gags. Okay, so you're fighting the old Demon King.
Yes. I just found that I was running and jumping around, but still regaining, having this level of control that I wouldn't normally have had if I was taking a thumb off one of the thumbsticks to kind of hold down like a B and to press B separately. And I had a corking time with that boss fight.
Corking time.
Yeah, and it was just it's really good. Like I say, a lot of that early stuff is replacing muscle memory, but it's comfortable as fuck, and it gives you, in some of the invasions I've had as well, more success in those.
Really?
Because yeah.
Does it not? Because I would I understand the whole muscle memory thing. It must take a bit of getting used to, but like, that would hurt my head. That would make me think more about the controller, not about what was on the screen. Myself, because I had the Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller.
Okay.
The one that comes in a fancy box, like the PS2 version, that has the start button is a fucking ripcord. It's the light when it goes to start the game up. Good Foley there. But like the L2 and R2 buttons are in such a weird place, I couldn't play it.
In this case
as well, I really tried.
In this case, initial stuff is breaking that muscle memory, and it's a head fuck. But I wanted to see, because I knew in theory that there'd be something quite cool if I could get used to it, of not taking that right hand thumb off the stick. And like I say, for the most part, it is just using that top right paddle underneath to run and jump. But also, you can fire into an Estus without taking your thumbs off the sticks, and it's excellent. It's really, really good. And like I say, whilst the promotions have always been, these are a dream for first-person shooters and for racers and stuff, it's fantastic for Souls stuff. And found that I was, like I say, in the invasions that I'd had as well, that I was doing better because I wasn't kind of flicking off that left hand sort of stick to go and do stuff with buttons when I needed it. And once I got past breaking that muscle memory, when new muscle memory kicked in, and I kind of knew where everything was, and there was still, a little bit of the odd break in the matrix within that, but it works really well, and the paddles are great underneath. And I was thinking, like, I wonder what the scuff ones are like on the PS4 in themselves, and they've got a different configuration entirely, which I think is a bit of a shame, but the controller itself is absolutely belting, really, really good. But yeah, I thought I'd mention it on the show because trying it on Souls, I really enjoyed it on Souls, and it's been the biggest standout for me, 100%. So it's good stuff.
But now what you've just done there, you see what you've done there. What you've done is you've basically you've told the Souls people that it's good. But what that means is that the PvP Souls people will buy them, and then I will keep losing worse, sir.
No, you won't, because you're on PlayStation 4.
Okay, well, people of my skill on the Xbox machine will start losing worse, sir. You've given them a tool.
No, I've become a king.
You should have kept it quiet.
No,
quiet. In the underground.
It's mechanics news.
Ting, bang, drill. Ooh, get the headlight fluid. Mechanics news.
It's Jesus Christ.
It's the first thing I could think of. We've had new people at work, and we've been trying everything. It's been wonderful.
So yeah, it's a really good controller. If you can put any money aside for it, because it does command a decent price, and I think they've been throwing Halo 5 in free recently, which is like the special edition version as well.
Okay,
which ain't so bad. Various retailers I think have had it as low as about 90 quid. But it is a really nice controller.
It's good they're throwing Halo 5 in, because I've heard it's really good for first-person shooters.
Bizarrely enough, it was even though because Halo 5 was made free for a week around the same time that I got it, and I started playing it, and I know that it was the first game I was playing with the controller, but I probably took longer to get used to Halo 5 with the paddles underneath for like the extra stuff than I did for Souls. And I think most of that was because of the Souls stuff. Most was just that top right hand corner sort of holding down and like pressing B to run and jump and stuff was really comfortable and natural, and something that I was doing a lot. And then it was just remembering, what the other bits were, and yeah, it's good. But for Souls, it's a belter. So recommended if you've got an Xbox One.
That's a seal of approval.
Yes.
Ting!
And worth mentioning, because it is kind of a side note to mechanics news, but if you are a Souls fan playing on the Xbox One and you fancy kind of improving your game a little bit, worth putting a bit of money aside, I reckon.
Interesting.
So, Patrick.
Yeah.
to start off the Dark Souls 3 stuff.
Yeah.
It's not sitting well in your palate, is it?
It's not, right. So, this is... I was thinking about this a while ago. Okay, and we, as we mentioned earlier, we battered around a bit, to get back a feel for it a couple of weeks ago. And we started chatting about it and then thought we should probably stop this chat and save this. Like, we were chatting for a bit and thought maybe we should podcast this.
Well, we were prepping a different show.
Yeah. And this just came up. Yeah.
We were prepping the next one and talking about... Well, we were talking... we were going to be talking about the Road of Sacrifice. It was like, right, let's have a bollock around in there. We hadn't had chance to catch up and speak to each other because of same reasons that the podcast's not come out, that my shifts have just been all over the place.
And my shifts are incredibly hard.
Well, also are mine.
Yeah, well, yeah, like even when I get home on a good time, sometimes you get home and I'm just exhausted,
Yeah,
and even,
absolutely,
because that manager life, I haven't had any cover for like 2 months.
I understand that.
And mind you, side note, you'll be pleased to know, you won't be pleased to know, I am getting definition in my arms. I am getting buff.
You're getting more than the one bicep.
I can do, 32 push-ups in a row. 30 fucking 2 proper push-ups. 32 the hard way.
33 for the next episode.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna keep. I do one extra a day.
You're all man.
I'm getting better. And like I looked at my arm. I'm like, my god, there's shape there, and you tap it, and like listen to that, solid.
Is it?
That's forearm meat.
It's not your peen, is it?
Ooh.
We got accused of talking about jizz the other day.
We don't talk about jizz at all. Come on.
Don't. Anyway, Dark Souls 3. I think it was a tweet that you put out initially that made me go, okay then. So Dark Souls 3. It's tell me about how it sits in your head, how it was when you were playing it, and we'll cover a few of the specifics as we go along.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, like, the thing is, I mean, I put out a ranking of Souls a while ago. This was after we chatted about it, and it got a bit of discussion going. It was cool. We'll get to that later. But after we just chatted, I think Laura asked me, which ones do you think is your favourite? I went, I don't know. And I started kind of putting the rankings together in my head. But like the only one that I could, the one I was definite on was Dark Souls 3, and I was definite on it being my least favourite of the set. So when I was playing it for the first time, I was rattling through as everyone was. I got it same time everyone else did, and I was banging it through. I finished it a bit slower than most. Not you, obviously, but Jesus Christ,
definitely not me, mate.
Yeah, no, I didn't suffer a power failure for 3 months. I got it through. I did it not slow, but I took maybe 70 hours possibly to get through it.
To be fair, a good portion of my early time with it, I was done up like a shoe after a back operation, and you might think that would leave me more time on the couch, but it's quite draining doing nothing after exercising.
Oh, of course,
all that kind of guff.
Yeah. I've had that. You get home from work and you just look at the screen, you're like, nah, just put on some anime and veg. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it while I was playing it, and I battled through it, and I was having fun. It was a time. And I beat it, and I saw the end, and I did the fire thing, and I got the dark ending at first, which is what I enjoy, because I always like doing the dark ending where I can, because I think it's the right way of doing things. Fuck the one where you take the not the complicated one.
Okay.
I did the one where you give the eyes to the maiden. You find the eyes in the dark fire link. You find some eyes behind a wall, and you stick them in your maiden, and she's like, "Oh, I've got eyes now."
Eyes behind a wall.
And then the music changes, and it's like, ooh, the fighting music.
Sprinkly, sprunkly,
different. It was interesting.
Plonky, plonk.
Different kinds of plonk. And I beat it, and I got the dark ending with the sun going out at the end. I was like, oh, that was really cool, brilliant, awesome, done. And then I hung out near the boss door for a bit. I mean, I went around and mopped up some of the extras. Like I did the Nameless King with friend of the show, Jeremy Greer, hashtag the worst, and beat him and sort of hung around a bit and mucked about a bit, and kind of left it there for a while, to be honest. Normally when I beat a Souls game, I've got that compulsion to just start again. Just right, new character, go right now, immediately, right, boom. I never do New Game Plus. I don't really like doing New Game Plus on these games. I like the new game experience.
I think in this regard as well, on the cusp of the first of the DLCs coming out, if rumours to be believed, the last week of August, it doesn't seem wise to go into New Game Plus. And as far as I'm aware, they've not really done a Dark Souls 2. That there's not really a huge reason to go into New Game Plus, as far as I
numbers
can
are a
tell.
bit bigger, and there's more rings.
So.
That's about it.
But I think that's a bit shit compared to Dark Souls 2.
A bit
frankly.
half-assed. I mean, Dark Souls 2, as I'm sure is incredibly well documented, gets a lot of flack. But that New Game Plus mode, I got like halfway through that New Game Plus on Dark Souls 2. And I really enjoy it. I enjoyed what it's done. I don't get a lot out of the New Game Plus experience, though. I get to a point where I'm like, it's a bit hard now. I'm done.
But I think in that New Game Plus stuff on DS2, I'm thinking sort of mainly Scholar because it's foremost in my mind. But there was stuff like, oh fuck, when you saw a red phantom somewhere, or if you get to near to the old Iron King boss fight, like there's a red phantom guarding the bonfire just before that, who is a harder fight than the boss.
Nice.
He's an absolute arse, and will happily have one of his first moves hit one of those kind of rotating cow horse flame face things, and just turn it into some sort of wheel of death.
Good word use.
Well, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Good word use. That's an episode title.
Good word use.
Yeah,
Writing that down.
Yeah.
So I beat the game and I finished it off, and I thought, that was all right. And you hadn't got close yet, so I didn't really. I like talking about it in detail with you, and not that I don't love you on Twitter. I do love you, listeners. But I'd like to save my in-depth discussion for when you're there, because you've not done a lot of this stuff. I didn't want to start talking about things that you might not have seen. And Orlando, particularly, I was cacking myself that you were going to get that spoiled for you, and I was just not shutting up. To the point where I think you'd come back from your operation, and you were like, I haven't really got gold, so I can't play Dark Souls 3 yet. And I was like, where are you? I think you were at Irithyll at the time. And I was like, here's a 3-month gold code, get on with it.
Yeah, he kind of ran out, and work were being very strange, overpaying me properly. So
yeah, that's why you got that, because I was like, get on with it, pal.
Well, sadly, that was spoiled for me beforehand, and the view from Irithyll, which I think we mentioned in a previous episode that I kicked off a little bit about on spoilers, but the Irithyll view, like about 4 or 5 people spoiled that for me. And the Orlando thing was spoiled again. So that wasn't a particular shock in that regard.
It's a shame, because I got that clean. I went up there clean and just was literally doing that. Oh my god. I know that our good pals Gavs from You Died, Gav Russell was helping Gav Weir with the Pontiff boss, and then hung around on the chat with him for a while. Which he doesn't usually do. He usually helps and leaves. He hung around and got to sit there and listen to him discover it.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, he was telling me earlier. It's like, it was amazing. He punched the mic. Sorry. He was telling me he got to hear him go, what? Nah, mate. But I was trying to keep my words to myself, because I wanted you to get these prizes. And it's a shame that's like. But the thing is, the time you were playing it, by that point, I mean, I wasn't surprised that you'd had them spoiled by that point, because it had been a while, and I mean, like, after a certain time, the spoiler wheels sort of come off, don't they? As much as we say, no, keep to yourself. After about 2 months, it's done.
Yeah, but it was even before that in the opening weeks, and I think that whilst some folks have said, well, if you're playing this and you want to go and clean, you just remove yourself of Twitter and of Tumblr and
such a stupid thing to say.
And it's like,
we live there.
It's like, if I'm going to places that I do not just for my soul stuff, I know Jerry Maguire was saying he just unsubscribed from all of his Souls places after a while, and anywhere that could do it, and was still getting things kicked in by YouTube recommends. If I'm on my Twitter feed and somebody kicks up a screenshot to, somewhere that I've not been, that to me is pretty shitty, because if you want to send that to a friend who's either already been there or you want to show it to them specifically, kick it off in DM. It's the same as kind of openly chatting about this stuff. And even when I was going through those kind of things, I was trying to be, when I was talking about a boss, I'd just put it in, capital letters for like
B of the DD.
Yeah, and things like that, and then take it to DM. So I think there's a nice way of doing it, but there was stuff late on that I wasn't spoiled by, and gave me probably more of a thrill than the Anor Londo thing, really.
Yeah. So I mean, I was quite lucky when I finished the game. I'd been through and I'd found all the secret areas myself.
No,
I worked it all out. Yeah, it wasn't too hard.
No,
it wasn't hard.
It's all right to tell me. I'm not going to judge.
No, it wasn't hard. It was easy. I found the Osiris area by just picking that way first at the junction where I could have gone forward, left, or right. I went, I'll go left then, and just walked straight into it. I assumed it was the next boss, then I found out later it was optional.
You sat down with Dragon Man and stayed there of your own accord. Did you like go and wander off and have a cup of tea and then come back and just go? Fuck.
It didn't take long. It only takes like 10 seconds. Like, I remember the egg, maneuver you have to pull in in Firelink in the first game. The egg maneuver.
It's okay to tell me. I won't judge.
No, seriously. So I went past that and I saw the sign on the floor that said "Try gesture."
Right, okay.
And I then remembered that, and it took me longer to go back once I'd found the gesture.
Okay, I get you now. That might have been one of those kind of from messages.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, it wasn't. It was a player one. It had a player. It was definitely a player one. And I worked it out. I was like, yeah, I felt, clever. But then I found that. I did all the dragon stuff. I did the dragon the proper way. Not the way you did it. We'll get to that later. Did all that. Beat the Nameless King after I'd beaten the game. I did that with Jeremy because that was just too much. I couldn't. It was too much.
Yeah, I'm currently waiting until I'm stupendously overleveled.
But it does give you a magnificent hat.
Yeah, true. But at this point, I honestly, I was so scared after I rang that bell, and I was like, oh no, I instantly regret this decision. And having seen streams of people fighting John Bon Jovi and his magic chicken, I thought I'll wait until the DLC and wait until I'm spectacularly overleveled, then I'll come back.
I'm not sure if that's going to make a difference. I was pretty good level when I went in, and he still made a mockery of me.
We don't know what's in the DLC, so we'll see how we level, what weapons are there, and all that kind of gubbins. But
a sword with +10 to John Bon Jovi kills.
Oh, that'd be great,
isn't it?
Yeah, mate. How about that for living on a prayer?
Ooh, I like that. So to carry on this, so I finished off my game and I kind of left it alone for a while. I think other stuff was coming out. I started getting into The Witcher. And then obviously we started to prep up for our season, for our Dark Souls 3 run, as it were. So I made a new character. I did a silly strength build, big orange man with a chin, Mr. Estes. I'm sure you've heard of him. And I've got a bit of the way into the game with him, but since the last time we'd played, which was probably about 2 months ago, before E3, literally I have had zero compulsion to go back. There's no connection with me with number 3 at this point, in a way that, Bloodborne, I wanted to go straight back in. Dark Souls 1, straight back in. Dark Souls 2, straight back in. This is the first one that I'm just like, okay. I'm not excited about going through it again. I'm not going, oh man, I can't wait to go and kill the zombie man again. Yeah. And like the boss fights are cool, and some of the NPC stuff's all right, but it's a bit too hard. It's a bit too buried. Like you've got to follow a guide to getting it done properly. You'd never do some of these quests by accident, even though I think Jeremy Greer did the really hard one by accident.
It's all right. It's all right to tell me, Jeremy.
Dubious.
Won't judge.
Yeah.
If Pad has air quotes found the optional areas himself, air quotes.
Screw you. I totally. They weren't that hard.
Then I'm sure you did. Open air quotes. All of the quest lines yourself by natural causes. Air quotes.
Air quotes. But yeah, to get any kind of because I was going to do the Hollows ending on our 2-player one on our co-op run because I thought it would be a fun ending. Cause, Hollows are cool. And I always wondered what the hell went on when Yoel of Londor died. I was like, why are you dead? What did I do? Was that me? Did I do that? And the thing is, when he died, I'd done. There's another lady that appears once he dies. I had used him 4 times before I advanced past the Abyss Watchers. So he dies and she doesn't appear. You have to have used him 5 times. I must have only used him 4. And I've forever kicked myself because I would have followed that quest. I would have done as much as I could on that quest, and I think I probably would have maybe found it.
And something that I learned only a few days ago, you probably shat yourself if you had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like
9,
the NPCs just aren't that interesting, and without wanting to go full Butterfield, I'm sorry, Gary, I love you. Like they just don't have. There aren't really that many NPCs that I give a shit about. Like the quest lines, I just don't give a shit. Like Sigurd's fun, I clapped like a little girl when like, oh my god, it's Sigurd, and like Andre being there, oh, it's Andre, and the patches stuff was brilliant. To be fair, I did some of that with Jeremy in the Cathedral of the Deep, and it was funny. Like
which of the patches stuff did you see?
Okay, in my first run, he locked a door behind me when I went up behind Firelink, and laughed at me.
Yeah, got that.
And then I saw him again later. He was like, whoops, sorry. And that was basically all the patches I saw. When I did it again with Jeremy in the Cathedral of the Deep, we'd managed to get Sigurd's quest right. So he turns up in the cathedral in disguise. And you can move the camera. You can do the trick where you kind of adjust the camera into the helmet. And you can see it's totally patches as well.
Because one of the things that I found later about the patches stuff, there's something to do with when he's back in Firelink, you can buy the Onion Bro armor from him.
Yeah.
But if you don't buy it and Sigurd gets into trouble at a certain point, Patches will go and rescue him.
Okay.
Which I think is absolutely shit hot. And I may have confused this in a slight way as to there's something to do with whether you buy that armor or not, and whether Patches goes and rescues him. I like the thought of Patches, who's always been a bit of a kind of snide but cheerful cunt throughout the other games, kind of having the impetus to go and rescue somebody. I like that. But to agree with you in this regard, I think that a lot of those quest lines aren't as natural even as the Dark Souls 2's one. Because the Dark Souls 2 stuff was pretty much if you meet an NPC, you can... Because let's face it, those NPC summons in Dark Souls 2 and Scholar were absolutely outstanding. They were full of character and full of fun. You know, when you've got a ninja wandering through some sort of spider level, and then they're pulling out binoculars and just perving at the landscape. That makes me very happy.
They're the best they've ever been. Or when you're in the windmill and the summon you get, I think it's Manhunter O'Hara, I think it was, that points at the windmill you have to burn.
Yeah, and then...
Because I'd have never figured that out by myself.
When you light it, she sort of punches the air as well. I love those. I would love something like a Gibbs Raynick poster of all of those NPC summons from DS2, because I think they're fantastic and they got so much personality to the point where I'd rather summon one of those than a human player, because they were just great. But the ones that you were using for boss battles, you knew that if you were keeping that like a Lucatiel alive, that there was a chance that if you found the location that they were in as you went further into the game, that would advance things a little bit more. And I love that Lucatiel questline. I thought it was great. One of the biggest strengths of the original Dark Souls, I'd say, over Dark Souls 2 was its characters. That they were memorable, they were vibrant, possibly in a way that Dark Souls 2 was a grander, bigger, different story. But Dark Souls 2 rested on its characters, and I don't think that Dark Souls 3 had that.
No.
And I think that there's an irony that it was leaning much more heavily into fan service, and yet that didn't include the level, not only the level of kind of characterization and memorable characters that were there, but, and this is something that I said to you before, of all of the characters that they referenced, they were all brought back with versions. The ones that they didn't give us were Artorias and Solaire, and in many ways it could be said on the face of it, they've actually degraded Solaire from the place that we actually thought he was.
With the Nameless King stuff.
I really like the idea of the Nameless King stuff. That he's the god of war that wandered away. Because in the first Dark Souls, we thought that was Solaire, that he was just a normal man with that was humble, that was fighting alongside us, but he did have that kind of that tendency of godhood.
The Hercules effect.
The Nameless King stuff. I like the through line that draws through Dark Souls 2, because it's understood that the Nameless King was Faram, and that's the armor that he had, that he inspired the Lion Knights of Ferosa, which I'd never connected to Faram in the first game, but that's pretty cool. And then that drives its way through Dark Souls 3, and there's stuff that I really like there, but it also tends to, like, my biggest question about the way that Dark Souls 3 is telling its story, because the first game stands alone as it is. The second game does its own thing almost independently of the first game, with these little sort of twists and myths and I don't know, like whispers of like the Robin Hood myths, and the way that changed around the country, and how it was affected by royalty, and how those tales were told by peasantry. Those tales have gone through time, and I just think that was really, really classy for a sequel to do. And Dark Souls 3 kind of going, well, this is the way it could have been, and if certain characters had made a different decision, this could have happened, and that's an interesting way to tell the story. But when you're looking at something like Ornstein, they're saying that Ornstein walked away from the chapel in Anor Londo, and this is his quest to be reunited with the Nameless King. And I liked the fact that one of the lore videos that I've been watching was saying that the reason that we find his armor on the ground is because he's become a dragon. He is the creature that Nameless King is riding atop, which I think is really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he does have that kind of armor, and one of the like I say, one of the lore videos that I saw was attesting to the fact that the armor had the human resonance of Ornstein, and that's what we fight in, like the Dragon Slayer armor fight. Really like that stuff. Really like it. And the Nameless King stuff does fascinate me, about the child that turns away from godhood and goes on his own. And I don't know. I think there's links to Seath the Scaleless and various other bits, and that also ties into kind of another bit with the twin princes, with somebody else that's turning away from
the person that they're told they should be, and that I find very, very interesting, because again, it's decisions away from the norm. In this regard, I'm not sure where that leaves us with Solaire, and as to whether they might do. You know how the DLC in the original Dark Souls, we go on to rescue Artorias' legacy, and when we return back to the main timeline, Dusk is stating that it's Artorias that rescued her, that it wasn't us. I'm wondering if we maybe see a rise of Solaire, and that he's got another purpose, another path. That whilst there might have been this bait and switch between the person that we thought he was, what if Solaire becomes the God of War? What if he travels through Dark Souls as a normal man, not as this God of War that's sort of like this Christ-like figure that's wandering through the land as we thought he was? What if he is this normal man, and the bait and switch is that he becomes the God of War, that he gains greater purpose in the DLC and stuff? I'm waiting for that step up, because if they are just leaving it as Solaire's armor being available from the crows, I think they've done an even greater disservice to one of the series' biggest characters, even aside from the fact that it looks like that legacy has been somewhat crippled.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like it's show don't tell, isn't it? I think the reason everyone resonates so well with Solaire, in the first game, is because he's that beacon of light, that beacon of sunshine in a gloomy game. But a lot of the stuff about is he the son of Gwyn? Is he all this stuff? It's kind of vague. You don't know. You can theorize, but nobody really knows.
Does anybody truly want the answer? Because
this is the thing. Will this DLC answer the question? Exactly.
Yeah.
Do I want to know? Here's the reference, right? So at the end of the Matrix, right, when Neo's learned how to be the Matrix, that's what.
Sorry, is it the new millennium again?
Get on my level. It's been a while since we recorded, all right? So at the end of the Matrix, when Neo, learns about all the powers he can do, and he's on the phone going, "Yeah, I'm coming. You watch out." And he puts the phone down and he flies away, and then it ends. I'm like, brilliant, stop, great. Don't do the next 2 films, because I don't care about that. You've made it worse by trying to expunge upon it. And many times when a character is a bit, they leave the end open, and then we'll do a sequel, and they make it just infinitely worse. The Matrix, look how much it pooped its pants by the end of that.
Yeah,
thing.
but the first Matrix just ripped off Grant Morrison's The Invisible.
Oh, it was fine. It was a great movie. I don't care.
And then when they had to run on their own, they showed just how little idea and storytelling that they truly.
They turned Neo into a poo boy.
Yeah.
But this is the same thing. With the Dark Souls 2 DLCs. We were talking. You want. Your theory is one's going to be Solaire, one's going to be Artorias. I absolutely do not want that.
As going into stuff that I've seen tonight, because again, I've been watching part of the interest for me here is now going into the lore videos. And to state my own place, contrasting against yours, I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3. I enjoyed it a huge amount. I marinated in it. I really took my time in it. I took it slowly. It thoroughly entertained me, and the stuff towards whereas a lot of people, you were saying, were kind of aghast at seeing sort of Anno Londo. The things that really got to me were was the Lothric stuff and the twin princes. And
Sorry.
I'm not gonna quip about this, because I was genuinely moved by that boss battle in itself, and particularly the dialogue from Harry Lister Smith, who voiced the younger prince and also voiced Gwendolyn in Dark Souls, which I thought was fantastic. I was that was the point where I was left kind of flipping my wig from a lore point of view, because that was the stuff that I really, really liked. There's the game itself. I think that it's perhaps the best boss battles that there's ever been in a Dark Souls game. I think that they're almost all tremendous, memorable, different, and whereas one of my complaints with Bloodborne has always been it felt like I was being attacked by a tornado at a speed that I couldn't move at, and these all felt beatable, and I don't mean that in a kind of a shunning way. I enjoyed the spectacle of them. I think that things like what they called the one where all the blood rises towards the centre.
The Abyss Watchers.
The Abyss Watchers was just...
That is brilliant. I will give you that. I agree. I think that fight is incredible, but...
You don't think the other boss battles were good?
I don't really remember many of them.
No.
Is the thing. I remember the Abyss Watchers. I remember the Dancer. That was cool. So I get thrown in... And I remember bloody... What's his name? The Deep Man. What was his stupid name? I can't remember his name. Look, what is going on? I can't remember his bloody name. The Pope, the Pope of the Deep. What was his name? The Pope. Pope of the Deep.
I like that version.
The Deep Pope.
That's good.
The Deep Pope. You know who I mean.
Yeah. All right then.
Pontiff Sylvain worked under him, and his Pontiff Sylvain's boss was called that Deep guy, who was a slug.
That's exactly who it is.
What was his name? You know it, don't you?
I don't, sir. I clearly don't.
Piss. The Deep guy with the arrows.
Piss of the Deep.
Piss of the Deep.
Deep Piss.
Deep Piss.
That makes him sound like an undercover agent, and I quite like that.
I don't want to Google it, but I need to know. Oh, I hate you.
You didn't like Yorm?
No.
Because I know that Gary Butterfield has said that he wasn't a fan of Yorm. I did that boss fight about 1 million times, just because I loved it. Initially, I had questions because I'd never used the Ashen Estus at all, and in a similar sort of vein to Demon Souls, you have to kind of find a sword, but then you have to equip the sword, and then you have to, if you're using like sword and board type play, you might never have used the Ashen Estus.
I never did.
So there is kind of a little bit of a fumble around in that regard, but I found the battle just desperately exciting. And when I was laying my sign down afterwards, and I saw like Onion Bro joining the fight, I was like, what?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I wanted that to have happened, but because I cocked up the Onion Bro quest, you don't get that. And like, that would have been really cool if that was just a thing that you get.
I think this was the point where why couldn't you have summoned Onion Bro like outside anyway? Because that was the whole dialogue of Onion Bro versus Yorm was with the fact that like you told me if there was ever a problem, whatever the dialogue was, I was to stop you. It was fucking ace. And we'd seen sort of an indecisive Onion Bro in the first Dark Souls, but this one seemed to have a little bit more kind of courage and balls to him. He was like the opposite side of Onion Bro, and I loved going into the battle with him, and especially afterwards that he sat down and had a Siegbrow.
Oh, that Siegbrow.
And part of the fun of being summoned for this fight over and over again was Yorm dying, then piling straight over to Onion Bro to sit down and have a Siegbrow with him. So I loved Yorm. I thought
I thought it was wank.
No,
I picked up the sword. Cause I knew I wasn't doing any damage, and I saw an item, and I got it. I was like, "Oh, that's a cool sword." I couldn't equip it without getting killed, so that was a gopher. That was a gimme.
Granted,
you know, like, okay, here's the sword. You can't use it yet. You're gonna get stomped. Got stomped. Got the sword out, but like I didn't realise you could charge it in bits. Because I was trying to charge up and just getting thumped. I was like, how am I supposed to charge this for the 3 seconds it needs to get full without him punching me in the gob?
Just run to the other side of the arena.
It didn't work. He was too fast.
No. I mean, I am shite at Dark Souls games, and that does work. I did take him down on my own.
I knocked off like
because
one. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I think at this point, I kind of thought that there was something wrong with the Dark Souls servers and stuff, and I'm sure there was somebody that I was gonna play with who I'd set up a password for who didn't actually turn up, and then that password was still on. So I was like, well, looks like I'm gonna have to do the boss fight, man. But I loved that fight, and literally the amount of times that I repeated it was huge. The Dragon Slayer armor I thought was fantastic.
It was alright.
What?
It was alright.
Spectacle, man.
I didn't think it was. I like the things in the sky. Like, I think the best spectacle fight for me was probably the deep man. What was his name?
The Deep Man.
Albus.
So not the.
It started with an A.
Deacons, then.
Albus. That's Dumbledore. Fuck. What was his name?
I don't think.
I honestly can't really remember. Obviously, the final boss fight that was great, but like, I don't really remember that many bosses outside of that. I don't remember them being like. I know I walked through a couple of them. Like, I can't even think now. It was the witch. Crystal Sage.
Crystal Sage, I thought was great.
I missed that one, but I'd over-leveled because I missed that section, so it became pointless.
Me too, but I still thought it was a
Aldrich! Fuck! Aldrich was his name.
Okay.
I
still thought the Crystal Sage was a wonderful spectacle of a fight. And whilst it wasn't like tremendously difficult, it looked marvellous. I loved the arena that it was in.
What, a square?
Yeah, you got like the
boring
pillars and stuff.
Oh no, I thought it was rubbish.
But the Crystal Sage was like disappearing. You got like the things coming towards you, the doppelgangers that were kind of twisting and rising up. Thought it was good fun.
No, like the ones I remember, the good ones were Aldrich, and the Abyss Watchers was the one when I was doing our second run. That's the one I hung out at for a while because it was just fun. It's a great fight, and it's got the Artorias shades in it, obviously. But like,
you've also got that moment leading up to it where suddenly you're seeing the lads that are walking up towares the boss battle. You're like, no,
wait, I know you. Oh,
because even if you'd seen them in the swamp, the odd one or two that was hanging around, seeing them walking up like fucking reservoir dogs up to the top and kind of, or even if you haven't looked at them and all of a sudden you're just seeing that like coming in, you're like, hold on,
but like,
what's just died? And then you're like looking at health bars in the distance and you're going, what's going on up there exactly? And then you're like, oh no,
him. But here's the thing, so I expected there to be some sort of like covenant maybe, or some sort of quest line I could do involving those guys there, and there wasn't one. They were just sort of there. I don't know if that's me not making it, because I'm going to be honest with everyone on the internet here. I have not watched or read a single lore video or article about Dark Souls 3, mainly because at this point I actually probably don't really care enough. I'd probably do it myself.
A disservice.
I probably am.
You are.
But
you are.
But The Witcher's lore is really good, and I can access it without having to go and look at YouTube.
You went straight onto to Witcher from there.
I did.
And that's something that I've got to do. But in my case, I carried on sort of trolling around the areas. Occasionally, I'd jump into a Twitch stream and just go, "Where's that?" And I've still got an area like with the kind of hippo hand faced things. I'm sure I've been down there, but I didn't. I may have run away from it and gone and done something else.
It's round the corner from somewhere. Yeah, you wouldn't.
I know where it is, but I know that I kind of veered off in a different direction and kind of followed that path.
Yeah.
But I started doing some of the optional areas, and then friend of the show, Laura Rich, we started sort of having a bit of a catch up, and she was early on in the game, and it was nice to kind of go back and do some of those boss battles again and still earn a few souls to upgrade and stuff. So I kept on trolling around and then going back to old areas and just trying different weapons and different stuff. So I kept in with it. But recently I've delved into some of the lore videos. I've been looking at it's the first time because I didn't go through Bloodborne because Bloodborne and I didn't quite get on. It's the first time I've seen Varty's stuff for a long time. I watched Smotown's vids, The Ashen Hollow, Paragon DS, and I started a lot of it was going over my head because I was like, I didn't really get any of this from Dark Souls 3. And I in many ways I was fine with that because it was only when after playing through Demon Souls and enjoying it as a game with stunning gameplay and design and all that sort of stuff, I didn't expect that of Dark Souls. And when I first went through Dark Souls, I enjoyed that in the same way as I went through Demon Souls. It was only with the rise of like Epic Name Bro and Varty and stuff that those connections and that side of things started to bite in deep. And obviously it was a really slow burn for me with Dark Souls 2 and Scholar and everything that I'm probably known for a little bit with the way that I fell into Dark Souls 2. So I'm quite happy for Dark Souls 3 to reveal itself to me in that way quite slowly. I did freak out at the Aldrich kind of twin princes, that sort of stuff at the end. Even though it was a fight I got through quite quickly, there was a certain Robert McKee nature to the very final boss battle, whereas you got this creature that was part miracles, that was part fire. It seemed like one of those where it's like, oh, let's draw all their strings together. And the arena looked beautiful, and whilst it was, I wouldn't say it was even vaguely one of my favourite boss battles, I could see it as a natural conclusion. I thought it was kind of cool when it kicked into the Gwyn music as well.
The fact that he had all the powers, and he had all the weapons, you couldn't just adjust to one. You had to think on the fly and adjust to all of them. I thought that was cool.
It wasn't it didn't seem like a natural boss. It seemed like one of those, like the Robert McKee book, which is famous for being referenced and parodied in Adaptation, the movie with Nicolas Cage playing two brothers, which he's amazing in it, and the film's fantastic. But Adaptation is about a guy who, based on Spike Jonze, who is adapting a book about people that find rare orchids, and it's completely not the sort of thing that's to his skill set, but he's being paid a lot of money for it, and he can't bring the book to a natural, so he can't bring the movie version to a natural conclusion. He can't hit certain beats that you'd normally get with a movie that are there in the book, and he goes to Robert McKee, and Robert McKee basically says, like, do whatever the source material suggests, but draw everything towards a conclusion, whether it's natural or not. And at that point, the film suddenly becomes almost like an action film, where the writer goes to find out more about rare orchids and gets drawn into this den of kind of drug smugglers and explosions, and it's all really, really fake and false. But that's what they're trying to put across, and it feels like a Robert McKee villain for the end of the game. And I didn't hate it, but that's what it felt like. Watching the videos, there's been various connections that I probably wouldn't have made, which I've really enjoyed and I've really appreciated, and it made me realise how much these people were incredible storytellers, and not only mining this sort of stuff but presenting it. There was like I say, that line drawn through with the Nameless King, but there was even stuff that I saw tonight with regards to the Sable Church of Londor.
What is that?
And it's believed that, because there's an ending, I think.
I don't know what that is.
Who's the guy that you were saying that you nearly did his quest line?
Oh, you mean Yoel of Londor?
Yeah.
Oh, is
yeah.
that okay? That's the Hollow End. That's the one I'm trying to. Okay, maybe they've not said that out loud yet. Then okay.
The Sable Church of Londor is 3 sisters, one of which I believe is the Firekeeper. And these sisters seem to be linked together with dark purposes involved. And I was watching like the various bits and how they were saying like they were possibly linked to Velka, and that Velka is looking over all of the things that are happening in Dark Souls 3 and is seemingly ready to move. And it's believed that by Vartu saying that Londor he thinks is going to be the place for the first DLC, and that it is pretty much like New Londo ruins, like new Londo ruins. But in the kind of what you were calling the complicated ending, I believe that you take the fire into yourself and it's linked within yourself or something like this. And rather than like the dark like red moon going up, it's actually a dark moon, but it's surrounded by like a white sort of eclipse, almost signaling humanity, if you will. But he was explaining about this Sable Church of Londor stuff, and it was really interesting. But one of those is Yuria, and they were saying that, well, it showed that if you kill her in Firelink, if you have that battle, and this bit just made me go like, oh no! If you kill her, her line of dialogue when she dies is, "Carth, I have failed thee." Fuck off. And that was one of those things where I went, okay, yep. And I'm quite keen on this. And one of the lore videos sort of was talking about Ocelot and kind of the invisible child, if you will, born a child of dragons, and which is a boss fight I really liked anyway, and it shook me up quite a bit. But again, it was following the line through with the kind of human dragon breads, and it got like Ocelot's invisible child, but also it went through to drew a line through to Shanalot from Dark Souls 2, but also back to Priscilla in the original Dark Souls. And as all these sort of threads were going, it's like I'm kind of really enjoying these sketches being drawn outward from a game that, like the previous two, had just entertained the fuck out of me at this point. But it's now got its hooks in me kind of within a grander story that I've maybe only seen because I've played it a certain way and played it once and was enjoying it as I have with the previous ones, purely for the game alone. And these little things are starting to itch at me in the same way as previous stuff has, even going back to like the first Dark Souls. So I'm curious to delve into more of these.
Well, see, I've been enjoying your words.
I'm just gonna put light on because it's gone very dark.
That's fine. It's like I've heard the words you've said there, and like I appreciate that you can get a lot out of the lore. I do, I really do, because I have myself. But like I think I am now at a point with Dark Souls lore where am I suffering from? Do you know what? I'm going to coin a phrase. I'm suffering from loredom. I am bored by it now.
How did you feel about Bloodborne lore?
I like Bloodborne lore because it was its own thing. It was a new idea. It was its own. It was contained. It was one new thing, and it was cool. I enjoyed the Bloodborne lore. I enjoyed picking it apart.
But it wasn't that long ago that Bloodborne lore was a thing, and this is. Whilst I still feel that Dark Souls 3 has yet to completely lift its skirt and undo its delicate cardigan buttons, pick them away one by one.
Moving on,
and and point its artists.
Get on with it,
like it's a character in Overwatch.
It's not a cheap
that's about to be changed.
It's not a cheap thrill show. But like, I don't know if I like, because I don't have the attachment to 3. I don't have the attachment. I don't know if I care enough to search this stuff out and spend my time reading about this stuff, because the stuff you were just telling me there about the Londor stuff and the Ocelot stuff, like, I was listening, but a little voice in the back of my head's going, like, the whole time. And I get that it's interesting, and I get that people get a lot out of it, and I know that we've got a lot of followers who love the lore stuff, and that is fine. That is cool. Enjoy what you enjoy. I'm not trying to tell you not to, because if you get a lot out of it, you do. But personally, for me, I just don't. I just can't make that connection with it, and I don't know if to put it kind of bluntly, I don't know if I care enough, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the connection, and I don't even know if I want to, because there's frankly so damn much coming out at the moment. Like, do I want to give this let's put an arbitrary number, the 20 hours of lore videos that I'll watch to understand the lore? No, I'd rather watch JoJo.
I've been watching this sort of stuff when I've been having my tea, or I've been working out, or if it's getting to be sort of quite late at night and I don't quite fancy a movie, and I don't know how long I'll be like completely awake, but I'll watch 20 minutes to half an hour of video and kind of go,
that's what Shokugeki no Soma is for, which is Food Wars but in Japanese. But I find that I'm just drifting away from it. I'm drifting listlessly away from Dark Souls 3, particularly, in a way that I've not done immediately after him. And maybe it's soul burnout. Maybe we're burning out, because we finished Scholar very close to the launch of 3, didn't we? We banged through it. It took us a while, but I enjoyed it. And that was shortly after getting through Bloodborne as well. Like, I kind of had a pretty straight through line there. I don't know. I'm glad, in a way, that we don't do a full-on lore podcast like the Bonfire Side Chat guys do, because I probably would have tapped out by this point. I would have, like, there's no point, like, there would have been no point us doing a lore podcast if I didn't care.
I mean, we are,
because we try and be happy, don't we? We are a happy podcast. We like to talk about things we like.
It's not even sort of trying to be happy. And in future shows, we're going to do it in the same way as we have been for a little while now. We'll get a guest on. We'll have a chat to them about games in general, where they came from when they were young, how they got into things, and try and get an idea of their passions and their beginnings as a gamer, and how that then bled into Souls. And we will still discuss an area as we go along. And in many ways, perhaps there's a nice little bit of contrast again between us, because we seem to have like veered on different paths here. And who knows, that kind of intersection of conversation between us. But I presume are you gonna have a twat about with the DLC?
Well, obviously.
Good lad.
Yeah. I mean, I'll play it on it again. I'll play it once.
But it'd be interesting to see if there's a collision between the conversations and the future stuff, and maybe even kind of with me kind of going, right, I've seen this video, right, there's this really cool bit. Maybe, because I'm happy with Soul stuff being a slow burn for me. I think there's a difference in this regard, that The Witcher 3 has become, out of the blue and after a long time, severely important to you.
Oh, it's GOAT.
We haven't really
talked about it.
I think we'll be talking about that on a future the Humanities, and you and I haven't spoken about that because we're kind of saving that for a show. But I'm sure in return, that's something that I'd like to hear your opinion on, and I'd like that to kind of be the breath that I fill my chest with as I go in to give me extra impetus. Because, you know, I've got a friend, Charlotte, who's just incredibly into Witcher 3, to the point where she's started The Witcher instead of the new DLC because she can't bring herself to let go of this story.
Wow.
She's actually putting off saying goodbye to like Geralt and these stories, which I think is really cool. But, you know, it'd be interesting to see the intersect on both sides of that.
And not forgetting friend of the show, Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Love you, Chris.
I will say one thing that's because we were talking about you finishing Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Well, you finishing Scholar.
Yeah.
Sort of really close to this game. I went back on Scholar on Saturday, and and was kind of surprised in many ways that how quick it was, because you've got this thing with Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne to that extent versus Scholar of the First Sin, where you've got 30 frames per second and particle effects 720p versus Scholar at 1080p like 60 frames per second, and very few of them. Although I'd probably say like the lighting engines in Scholar are pretty fucking spectacular, to be honest, and when they're used. But I don't know, Scholar felt like astonishingly quick, and it really took me back how pretty it was. And one of my issues sort of versus Dark Souls 2 was how they've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater in many ways. That it comes across as rather hateful towards Dark Souls 2, which, Miyazaki or not, it's part of the canon. To forget that it existed and it in as many ways as it has is pretty shameful. I mean, we've got, as far as I can tell, we've got 2 shields, Lucatiel's gear, and a tree.
Yeah, that's
think
wow.
Dark Souls 2's
Is that the episode title?
Dark Souls 2's brilliant intuitive menus have gone, which were fantastic.
Oh, Dark Souls 3's menus are wank.
The garbage.
Don't like them.
And honestly, after going back on Saturday, I rather miss life gems, to be honest.
Oh my god, life gems! I really wish they kept them.
Stock up on those fuckers. And even on Saturday, the way that I was beaming when I was sort of wandering along, and all of a sudden I just went like, when I sort of burst one was pretty cool. I mean, like, we've spoken ages ago. I think it might have even been a Dark Souls podcast where we were talking about the climax of the game, and if it might have been Dark Souls 2, I don't know. But do you remember when I was saying that maybe if they'd leaned into fan service a little bit more, that if you come to the end, the final battle in the game, and say there was the massive boss fight, and then spoken words, and something breaks at breaking at the barrier of the fight, the barrier cracks, and there's a wolf howl, like summon signs on the floor, and all of the legendary dragon slayers and Artorias are at your side. Like, if there was something to that kind of degree of super climax and spectacle as to how that would be, and how at that point we were sort of saying, well, Dark Souls 2 just really leaves all of that sort of stuff alone and tells its own story. Dark Souls 3, kind of the way that it's doing fan service, other than the Aldrich Twin Princess stuff, which I really like, was you've got a different Onion Bro, Pound Shop and Orlando, army a bit like Artorias, feral arty sort of wolf beasts, and it just seems some stuff just felt plugged in.
To coin like a way of describing it, what we talked about earlier, like a very loose, rubbish way of describing it. It's like the Star Wars Force Awakens of Dark Souls. It's like, hey, remember Dark Souls? We've got some of that. It's not as good.
I don't feel like they've.
It's not that bad, but
I don't feel they've written down 10 things and just written through it. And like I say, I'm curious to see how this broadens out with the DLC.
I still think you're mad if you think it's going to be Solaire 1 and Artorias 1. I don't see it happening. I cannot see it happening.
Like I say, Varty seems to think that it's Londor. I think it was either the Ashen Hollow or Paragon DS that was saying that they think it's going to be the Deep.
I think Deep. I think they talk about it too much, and they don't, like, there's a cathedral of it, but you never see what the Deep is. Yeah,
there's a lot of references to Londor as well. So maybe one's going to be one's going to be the other. But I don't know. And whilst I thoroughly enjoyed Dark Souls 3, some of that just seems, I don't know. It seems a little heavy-handed at times, and it seems like, oh, we've got to do this, and yet the things that there are aspects that they could do that I just think might have been pretty cool. And it leads me back to Dark Souls 2 and how when you did get a reference to Dark Souls, it was actually pretty cool. Whether it was in the DLC finding Artorias' sword at the bottom and realising that you could swap arms and it did like the proper Artorias moves. Yeah. And also seeing a video of somebody doing the chariot boss fight and them jumping over the wheels. God. But also when you did get you got through to New Game Plus in that, and the bosses started giving you their equivalent souls from Dark Souls. Amazing.
See, I expected that in number 3. Why was that not a thing? Like I kind of sort of allude to it a little bit with the Soul of Cinder at the end, where it's like he's accumulated all the power of all the people that have linked the fire. I think that's a cool thing. Like all the skills he's got are from people that have linked it. But like is there I suppose the Dragon King is a Seath analog, but I expected more.
Yeah, and I think again we go back to the strength of the original Dark Souls was its characters, and the fact that there's not been, if you were taking from anything from Dark Souls, I think that rather than like these little kind of cuttings that have been taken here and there and seemingly like plugged in, there would be more grandiose impact if there was somebody of greater import that was there, whether it be like a side character or whatever it was. And I mean, like, give you an example, because in contrast to the heavy-handed stuff, I'm watching Stranger Things at the minute on Netflix, which is just incredible. Like last night I was watching it and I was literally trembling because it was so good, and that I was like, please don't do a Breaking Bad, and jump the shark to such a degree where somewhere across the other side of the universe there's a man on a motorcycle. That I was watching it, I was just so in the midst of it. But when these kids kind of have a point of reference, it kicks in because that's who they are, and that's the thing that they're referring to. Like if there's something about like telepathy or whatever it is, and they were like, oh, like Professor X and Jean Grey, or they have a reference to Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and it all seems very natural. You've got to give another example, you've got that Ready Player One book, which is being turned into a film at the minute, and that's just like really heavy-handed, like plugging in the 80s references like constantly. It's like, oh look, this guy in the future is watching a John Hughes film. And he's listening to, whilst all of his friends are listening to the latest music, he's got a Duran Duran album
on vinyl.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, and I don't know. It just I'm not entirely comfortable with the way that it's telling its story, but I am curious about this. Well, what if this character did this? Because if you've got the first game that was as it was, Dark Souls 2 doing its own sort of thing again, and that aspect of, well, perhaps cycles are destined to repeat themselves, but it's a different story that was being told within that different cycle. If 3's take is, well, what if such and such did this? What if the world changed like this? And how that is perhaps being manipulated by a Velka, or is being the Church of Londor or whatever it is. I can't make a final judgment without having these extra few bits that are in there. So whilst there's things that gnaw at me a little bit, the greater itch of the lore stuff and the world is definitely there for me. And it's still a game that I am like enjoying the heck out of revisiting and replaying, and especially in these regards, like we used to do, where we had that run around in
the Road of
Sacrifices, like the other week, reminded me of when we continually just went around Dark Souls and just had a chat and a laugh and we discussed a few bits and we refamiliarized ourselves with the level as we were then. I'm happy to let it broaden out and to marinate, and for us to have those moments where we just kind of catch up and twat a few bits. And
I'm not saying it's not
out
fun. Like, I'm still not saying, because it is still fun to play, and it's still fun to co-op. Like the other night was a good bant. I just don't know if it's got the hook in the same way that all of the other Souls games have played. Like for me, but yeah, like I say, I put the tweet out the other day that was ranking my Souls games, and it kind of picked up, and I was like, oh, okay, no, phone's going mental. What's going on? And like it for me is the worst of the Soulsborne games. And it seems a little soulless.
Can I
to coin a
ask
phrase.
one thing of you, that you never ever use that fucking pound shop term again, and you take it outside and you pour petrol on it and burn it?
Which one?
Soulsborne is the worst fucking name for this sort of stuff. Can we not just still call them Souls games?
Well, because Bloodborne isn't a Souls game.
Fuck that. It's still a Souls game. I'd rather call them Souls games under this giant banner of Souls games than fucking Soulsborne.
I will meet you in the middle. I will call it out of Souls games and Bloodborne, because Bloodborne isn't a Souls game. It kind of shares.
It still is. It plays like a Souls game. It shares the DNA.
Like calling Battlefield COD though. It's the same, but it's not.
It's not from the same studio. It's not. That's still like a military shoot 'em up.
Okay, COD and that's all they make.
Chips.
Oh. But yeah,
I genuinely despise that term.
Of the From Software games since Demon Souls, is that better? It is to me the least interesting, and it is the least compelling, and it's the least attractive to me at this point. And when I listed them out, it was one of the ones I was very certain on was that was at the bottom. Without even thinking out the top, I was like, well, that's definitely not my favourite. Which is strange, because usually one you played recently should be the one that's your favourite with these sort of things. Like I flip-flop between Dark One and Bloodborne, because it's whichever one I've played most recently is the one I like more, usually at the time. It's so hard to pick. But, like Dark Souls 2, solidly in the middle there at number 3 for me. It's really good, and you see a lot of people say they hated it, but I genuinely like Dark Souls 2. Not as much as you, but I love it quite a bit.
Because you see, I'm kind of where you are with Dark Souls 3 is where not dissimilar to where I was with Bloodborne, and we're going to counselling. we're trying again. So yeah, I know you sent me stalker messages, didn't you?
I saw you.
PSN.
I went on PSN and I looked at my friends list and I saw Coffee Jesus and I saw he's playing Bloodborne and I was like, I see you.
I just imagine you like Laura, like, hi Patrick, I brought you in this lovely set of cakes that I've been decorating for longest time, and this beautiful cup of tea in this very fragile porcelain cup that was my grandmother's and her grandmother's before it. And then you're like, oh, that's really, he's playing Bloodborne. Crash, tinkle, smash.
Oh yeah, smash it to one side. Do you not see? Can you not see? That's his name and that game, and they're in the same user profile. What's happening?
But this ties in.
I'm almost scared to get too excited in case it goes down again.
But this, sorry.
Good word use.
Willies. It's this actually ties into this. Sorry. This actually ties into how Dark Souls 3 has still got its hooks into me. That it's led me back towards Bloodborne. And I've always said to you that I've got unfinished business with it, and whilst I've gone back a number of times, and it's just not been there for me.
If this will make you feel better, I've not finished the DLC on Bloodborne yet. I cannot beat the last boss.
That has no real bearing on it.
Aww.
But I still love you.
I tried. No one's helping.
So yeah, I it had been on my mind because I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3 and just fancied having a venture back into it. And the place that my character was left at was the frontier.
Okay.
The the one that was like really yellow and bright.
Yeah,
and,
Nightmare Land.
Yeah, Nightmare Frontier, yeah. So, and I went down there and was routinely battered, stroke invaded.
Oh, there is some bullshit in that place.
Yeah, so I went offline and I went back into it and was still routinely battered. So I went back to, and I think this is a place where I've gone back to try and get on with Bloodborne previously. Haven't really done it. I've then gone back through some of the early levels, trying to find different directions and maybe just refamiliarize myself, or even like at times just kicking on a podcast and just going through stuff that I've been through before. And again, I wasn't particularly clicking. So I went back to what's it called? Near the doll's place.
The workshop.
No, what's the place called that she's in? Not the workshop. The workshop's in it. I can't think of the name of it.
Oh, the blah, 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 Cathedral Ward.
No,
The Hunter's
the
Dream?
actual place, the Hunter's Dream. That's it. Yeah. I went back to there and kind of started having a look at my weapons, and because I think I was using the Totes, which I really liked. Tinnitus, if you like.
Yeah.
I was using that, and it had broken. I liked the kind of the flick into electricity that I got from it. I was having fun with that, and I got the Kirk hammer as my secondary weapon, and I just thought, like, I really enjoyed twatting about with this threaded cane. Let's get that lad out again. Let's have a look at it. And I looked and messed about with some of the gems that I got, and realised that I could improve performance on kind of both the threaded cane and the Kirk hammer a little bit. Embedded the threaded cane with fire as well, and I got like a decent blood gem there. But I was like, I'm gonna go into the Chalice dungeons, and I'm just gonna have a twat about in there.
Okay.
And really enjoyed the Chalice dungeons.
To be fair, for getting the mechanics down, mechanics news, ting bang. For getting the mechanics down, that's a really good place to refamiliarise yourself with.
Well, not only that, I mean, I had fun with it, but I was also I was making progress with it, but also the drops that I was getting were improving my weapons a little bit more again.
Oh yeah, that's what they're for. Yeah,
and like tonight, I'd gone through like quite a few chalices and was doing really well. Hadn't returned to Nightmare Frontier at this point, and tonight. That was it. I'd gone into a boss battle where I'm sure something like 2 people had appeared, and I got absolutely leathered. And tonight went back into that boss battle, and there was one character that just sort of walked up to me, and I was like, all right, there's one on the screen, so I'm gonna stick near, like, close to the fog door,
yep,
and just take him on there. And I got this guy down to, I'd probably say, he got about a 10th of health left, and for some reason disappeared into the sky, and then was embedded in the top of a wall,
right,
where I couldn't get near him, and I just had to quit the game. And at that point, like, the threaded cane.
Did you at least save the video?
No, I didn't actually. I forgot. I don't. I'm not really a PS4 user, so I kind of forgot. But yeah, I ended up switching to the sword version of the Kirk hammer, which is now imbued with electricity, and started. I was using the guns more, and I was getting to the point where I was knocking the boss out, and then doing like the super stab, and guns have become more familiar.
Are
to
you
me.
learning to parry?
In many ways, yes.
You are burying the pursuer.
I more or less am.
I'm so happy.
But whilst I haven't returned to Nightmare Frontier again yet, I'm seeing progression with the weapons, and more important than anything, I'm having fun with it. And it's one of those where I'm coming back and I'm sitting down and I'm kind of like, I'll just have a twat about in a Chalice dungeon. and it doesn't seem as I don't know. I don't want to say scary, but do you know what I mean? Where you sit down and you think, I'm not sure I could do a whole level, or feeling a bit overawed by the main game and kind of this looming umbrella of how we've not gotten on. The giant couch that it and I sit on either sides with, but I'm having fun and I'm kind of bouncing around and I'm doing all right with it. And
now I'm gonna tell you something now.
But the interesting thing at this point is that I've kept coming back and I've kept wanting to play it.
It's unfinished business, isn't it?
It's not even that. It's because I've come home and I've sat on my couch and I've gone, I want to put that on, and it's not even like this sort of big unfinished business banner that's in front of me or anything like that, because I'm not even looking at that. It's just something that I want to kind of play, which is the most important thing. And like I said, this does stem a lot from still having Dark Souls 3 resonance, because I really, really enjoyed that game. So yes, if nothing else, sir, take from the fact that Dark Souls 3 may well have led me to Bloodborne.
Game of the year.
And on that bombshell,
well, we've got one more thing to talk about.
What were you going to say? Sorry,
we've got one more thing to talk about before we. I assume you've got one thing to finish up with. I've got one thing left to talk about.
Okay, no, I hadn't. I was wondering what you were going to say before I kind of signed off.
It's funny we were talking about Dark Souls 1 again, because I think now is probably the time to talk about this.
Yeah.
So,
Do it.
I am, as some of you remember last year. Remember I got my head shaved last year? That was fun, wasn't it? Remember that? That was fun. And I was cold, I was bald for a long time, and I went around...
Breaking pant.
My mum, on that day, she bought me a bag of blue fucking bonbons without realising. So I was walking around offering people meth all day. It was delightful.
Well played, Mum. That's awesome.
She didn't know. She was like, why are you so... I'll tell you later. She's not watched Breaking Bad. She didn't get it. She just, by accident, bought me a bag of blue sweets that looked suspiciously like meth. It was great. I didn't mind it. But it's fundraising season again. And I have to top that somehow with some sort of pain, some sort of physical, emotional, mental pain. So I am going to announce here, formally, there will be a video coming. I am going to be doing a charity live stream incredibly soon, possibly Sunday. I don't know the date yet because I need to know what days off I am, but very, 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 very soon. And the thing I'm going to do for the charity live stream, I'm going to be playing Dark Souls 1, and I'm going to be playing it in the one way that one should play the game. I am going to play this game as a one bro.
Wow, you're going to bro it.
I'm going to one bro as much as I can. The first session will probably be quite a long one. It'll probably be a Sunday. I'll probably start at about 2 in the afternoon and go as late as I can. And then I'll probably be playing it during the evenings as well to keep going, because I can't just do one session. I've got to finish this thing. Because me and you did try the one bro, and it kind of filtered out about halfway, just after Anno Londo, didn't it, for reasons?
Do you remember the point that it filtered out, sir?
Well, I was doing all right, but you just seemed to get stuck.
My 2 pads.
I tried.
I remember you playing like an absolute god in your own game when I was summoned into to help you out, but you came into mine with the effort of someone that didn't exist.
Well,
sorry, I'm dead again.
Well, yeah. I tried. I don't remember the mechanics. But I will be playing this probably, very, very likely playing it solo. Because the chance of getting a co-op run going, it's going to kill the pace. I'm going to have to do this myself. But
I'm
obviously,
sure people were playing alongside whilst watching us.
Yes.
On Twitch or wherever it was.
I would take help in that
down
way.
Signs anyway.
Yes, I would take help in that way if people are about. But I'm going to try and do it myself first. You know, I want to have the victory myself. I want to be a one bro. So hopefully you'll get to watch me play Dark Souls 1 again for the first time in like 3 goddamn years. It's been a long time. I've forgotten how everything freaking works.
I went back on the backwards compatible version recently and still had fun with it.
Yeah.
So
But I need to go see my friend Sean because he's got my capture card and I really need that.
You so do.
So yeah, I'll be doing a charity stream. Obviously, the more money you can give to me, the happier that makes me. To support our care services that we provide. If we're going to try and think of some like targets. So if we hit a certain point, we might do something. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll probably make it harder. I don't know. We'll see how we go on that one. That's a work in progress. But there is a teaser video coming, which should be live before this episode goes up.
I think the One Bro itself is making it difficult enough for you. Unless you're going to do that thing where, I'm sure I heard it mentioned before, where whichever weapon you find, you have to use.
Oh, no. I need to level these things up.
No, that's a pretty good run. It's one of those that I've always thought about doing. Like, you know, if you're running around with kind of a sword and stuff, and you're like, oh, pick this up. Oh, it's a
yeah, but on a One Bro, there's nothing you can like. You can't use anything.
No, but this is not on a One Bro.
Oh, okay.
This is the run is to use whatever you find.
Do you know what Laura's suggestion was? And we're absolutely not doing this, by the way. Don't ask. If we hit certain targets, go kill an NPC, a useful one.
No.
I was like, no. It's just, if you hit so much, kill all the NPCs. I was like, are you mental? No. I need them. Like, I need them.
We don't do that.
You know, maybe if we get enough money, we do a fuck the sun run.
What? Don't ever say that.
You know, maybe it's time.
It sounds like the rudest marathon ever.
For charity. Jesus. So yes, that will be happening incredibly soon. I'm getting the final details sorted out this week. Very, very likely it will start on my next full day off, which is probably going to be Sunday. Okay. So yeah, I need to get this podcast edited before then, don't I?
You do.
Yeah, gonna cowboy up and get on with this thing.
So on Twin Humanities front, we will be returning to this with a little more aplomb. We have guests lined up, which I'm really quite excited about. And so the next show will be fairly soonish, I think. We'd like to kick in with a few other Humanities in the meantime, because that's one where we can catch up on the stuff that you've known with Witcher and my sort of adventures elsewhere as well. And they're always sort of fun shows for us to just have a natter
in it, bruv.
On the other side of stuff like the books, movies, comics, all that kind of shidizzle. So yeah, we're hopefully going to be returning to a much more regular schedule from here, but a lot of that again resides in sort of where my shifts lie, sadly.
Yeah.
But
have you been on any other podcasts since we last talked? Because I have.
Oh, yes, I have.
You go first.
I was on the currently latest Sound of Play with Ryan Heyman, talking about some very nerdy, emotional bits. And I believe I got the longest song ever on the show, which was rather marvelous. So
challenge accepted, everyone.
I had, if you like my more emotional leanings, I had a good natter with Ryan about Attack of the Friday Monsters, which I've gone into on other Humanities before. The Wii RPG Fragile Dreams, which is just wonderful, and then I have a big nerd out about Lost Odyssey and get to play the entire Lost Odyssey suite from a live concert, which is like 24 minutes long. Yeah, it's at the end of the show, but that's the one that's had the nicest feedback, which has been pretty cool.
Nifty.
And Ryan plays some fucking ace stuff. Like, there's one musician that I really hadn't heard of before who has a tune that I properly enjoyed. But yeah, ramble.
If you want to hear some of the words I've said, I got to go on a new podcast, a very new, very young, growing very fast podcast called We're Not Wizards, which is a podcast about board games, hosted by delightful friend of the show, Richard or Revitar, who is the man that draws the lovely picture of me as Ocelot and drew lots of other people. He's a lovely, he's just the loveliest man. With a lovely accent. He's a lovely Scottish man. He's a lovely man. He's just a lovely man. I can't say he's a lovely man enough.
We shall have him on the show.
He's in the list. But we got on and we
Yeah, he
talked
is.
about board games that I played in the past when I was a wee nipper, and then the resurgence when I started playing again a few years ago, and stuff I've been playing recently, and stuff that's going to come soon. And we had a lovely time talking about dice and halflings and robots a bit too. It was loads. It was brilliant. If you like board games, give it a listen. It's called We're Not Wizards. You can find it on the iTunes and stuff. And they're young. They're only about 7 or 8 episodes old, but they're growing fabulously, and it's a good natter. And if you like to learn, want to hear about some board games you may not have tried, it's a really good place because they don't assume any prior knowledge. Like, they always discuss things from a 0 point, like this is how this works, this is how that works. So it's very accessible to a new listener. And yeah, because Revitar is lovely. Colin's lovely too, but Revitar, you are personally a lovely man.
Right.
Cool.
So, thank you for listening. This went on a lot longer and a lot more successfully than I thought it was. I enjoyed the natter, sir.
It was good.
I enjoys being a Tods, sir. I point Ricard's rapier at you. Dark Souls reference.
Oh, and I riposte with my threaded cane.
Goodbye.
Strong ending. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye to you, strong ending.
Never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.